Hi, it's Penny here, and today we're going to be putting together our TBR for August. As always happens at this time of year, I am shocked and offended that it is this far through the year. This year particularly, I feel like has been a bit of a disappointment, but never mind. We're going to pick some books to read. As usual, I'll be using my reading goals to guide which books I pick. And for our first goal, which is TBR 0, I'm going to be using my TBR Machine website that I made that generates random reading prompts. So TBR 0 means that I want to have no books that I own that I haven't read. I am cheating slightly. I've counted any series where I don't have the previous book in the series as excluded, and there's a few other random books I've excluded. But on my TBR cart now, there are under 20 books for me to choose from. So that's exciting, but it's also going to make this challenging. But anyway, let's pick a book. I've got the TBR Machine here on my phone, so let's have a look at our first prompt. Read a book that you think you will rate 5 stars. I'm so stingy that I hardly ever give out 5-star books. And honestly, at this point, I feel like any 5-star books on here I would have already picked. Let me have a look. Okay, I think the one that is actually the most likely to get a very high rating on here is Wizard of the Grove by Tanya Huff. Although this is actually, I'm pretty sure, a bind-up of 2 books. Yeah, it's Child of the Grove and The Last Wizard. So I'm only going to read Child of the Grove. I'm not going to be mean to myself and try to read 2 books as one book. I'm just going to read Child of the Grove. And I kind of have this vague memory that I read this maybe in my early 20s or maybe even my teens. When was this published? Is that even possible? 1988 was when Child of the Grove was published. So possibly in my teens. And I think I liked it. I can't remember what it's about anymore. Something about this girl being born and she's the last wizard and she's going to help in the battle against some great evil. I don't know. It's a fantasy book and I really enjoy Tanya Huff's work, so I'm hoping that I'll really enjoy this. Okay, now let's pick our second prompt. Read a book with an ugly cover. This one, of course, is subjective, but let's see what ugliness we've got. Okay, I'm going to go with Vortex by S.J. Kincaid. This is the second book in a series. I know some people might actually think this is beautiful, but it is not my style at all. I think it's kind of ugly. I really hate the font. I do kind of like all the zeros and ones that are kind of in the background. I'm not sure how well you can see them. And it is nice colors, but I think I just hate that font. So that's what I'm going to go with. This is the second book in a trilogy, which I've been meaning to continue. It's set in this world where there's a world war going on. However, that war is being fought out in space by drones, which are controlled by people's minds. And the people who control these drones are teenagers, because it's only teenagers who are able to adapt to having this chip in their brain that allows them to control the spaceships out in space. The main character was kind of unlikable, and I'm interested to see whether S.J. Kincaid can redeem him for some of the shitty things that he did in the first book. But the series was exploring some really interesting themes around mind control and being involved in war. So I definitely want to continue the series. Where am I putting these books? Oh, back here. Okay, then we'll pick one last book with the TBR Machine. Read a book with a pink cover. Do I have a pink cover? I kind of doubt it. Okay, no. There are no pink covers on my TBR cart. So I'm just going to spin again on the TBR Machine because there's not even any books on here that I could cheat and call it pink. So the actual third prompt, hopefully. Read a secondhand book. This is always easy for me to find a book on my TBR cart that fits the prompt, but hard for me to pick because pretty much all but one of the books left on my TBR cart is a secondhand book. And I kind of don't like it because it makes the decision making harder. Okay, I'm second guessing this decision a million times, but I think I'm going to go with Someone Like Me by Emma Cary. I've had this on my TBR multiple times this year and not got into it, so I should probably get to it. I think it's like a thriller about this girl whose alter ego starts taking control and really bad things happen. I don't really know much about it, but I have really liked things by Emma Cary before, so I'm hoping that I'll really like this one. It's a bit long, but I think it'll be okay. Okay, so these will be the 3 books that I read off my TBR this month, although I'll only be reading half of this one. I think it's not too bad, but let's see what other books I'm going to add to the pile. So, my other reading goals. Goal number 2 is Series 0. Just recently, I put together a spreadsheet basically detailing all the series that I have in progress, and I've realized that this is impossible because I would have to read 113 books in order to complete or catch up on all the series that I'm reading. So, I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm trying to make as much progress as I can on that so that maybe next year I could do it. Maybe. Maybe not, but we're gonna try to at least make some progress on series. So firstly, I do actually have a couple of books from the library for this. Firstly, I've got Mr. Impossible by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the most recent book in the Dreamers trilogy, which continues on from the Raven cycle. It's really hard to describe, but the magic in this is really twisty, kind of dream-based, but kind of just really strange. The new characters that have been introduced into the world in this series are ones that I've really been enjoying learning about, and I've been enjoying learning more about Ronan's brothers as well, and so I'm really excited to get to this. And once I've read this, I'll be caught up on the series. Then as well, I've got Boy Crazy Stacy by Gail Galligan. This is based on the original Babysitters Club books by Anne M. Martin. These were like my favorite books when I was a kid, and I've been really enjoying reading the graphic novel adaptations of them. I can tell that I am not the only one enjoying it because the library hold list for these books is massive, but I'm working my way through this series as quickly as the library can get them to me. And because they're graphic novels and also stories that I already know, they're really quick to read. So just fun, these ones. Then as well, I have a couple of ebooks that I want to continue. So I actually had on my July TBR to read Into the Darkness by Lee Murray, which is a novella in the Tane McKenna series. Basically, I read the first book in the series, and then this novella is in between the first and the second book. The first book was all about these different scientists and army people and a bunch of locals that ended up in this forest in the middle of New Zealand, and then there was this scary monster dinosaur Taniwha type creature. It was actually really scary, and also I quite liked the characters, so I'm interested to see how that series might be going to continue. And that's a New Zealand Maori author, so that's exciting. As well, I have a hold at the library that will hopefully come through on Defect by Nino Cipri. So this is the sequel to Finna. I'm not sure if this is going to be a longer series or what the deal is, but in Finna we had this furniture store chain that basically had a portal through to alternate realities, and a couple of the employees end up having to go through this portal in order to save one of their customers who accidentally stumbled into it. I'm not actually sure what the second book is going to be about, but I assume alternate realities, and so I'm excited to get a bit more of that. Also, I think it's going to be super short, and it would let me catch up on that series, so double good. And then I have a couple of audiobooks to read. So I have The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson. This is the 4th book in the Stevie Bell series. I don't know what that series is called. Oh, no, I do. It's called the Truly Devious series. Although, actually, the Truly Devious trilogy was kind of like the first 3 books, and the mystery in those 3 books was wrapped up. However, our main character, Stevie Bell, is this young girl who really wants to become like a detective, a crime solver, and so The Box in the Woods, I believe, is a completely separate, self-contained mystery. I'm not sure whether it's going to be wrapped up in this book or whether there's going to be more books that link to this one, but I did really enjoy the initial Truly Devious trilogy, so I'm excited to read some more of Stevie's story and see her solve some more mysteries. And then lastly for series, I have The Republic of Thieves by Scott Lynch. This is the 3rd book in the Gentleman Bastards series. I read the 2nd book just this month and I quite enjoyed it, so I've decided to continue, even though I think the 4th book is meant to be coming out soon, but has been meant to be coming out soon for a long time, so we're not really sure when we're going to get it. But regardless, I quite like that series. It's about Locke Lamora and his gang of thieves. In pretty much every book they're trying to carry out some kind of con, except then they get involved in some kind of trouble and things don't go the way they planned, and quickly everything kind of turns to shit. I did think the first book tried a little bit too hard to be clever. The second book wasn't quite as clever, but it wasn't trying as hard, so I enjoyed it kind of more. Maybe just because I knew what to expect. Can you hear that bird? Shush! It's because the sun is going down. So, I need to get my shit together. So if I can read all of those, it'll be 6 series that I've made progress on and like 4 that I've caught up on. So that's good progress on that goal. Then my third goal is diversity, so I want to read more diversely. I've got a few books on here that I think will help me out with my goal of reading less than 70% white authors. So firstly, I've got Sisters of the Snake by Sasha and Sabrina Nanua. Now this is a YA fantasy and I have been trying to avoid YA fantasies. However, this was one that I just find really interesting because it's a story about a princess and a street urchin who neither of which really like their lives. They run into each other and realize that they're identical, strongly hinting that maybe they're twins, and they decide that they're gonna swap places. What's really exciting about this is the authors themselves are actually twins. So I don't know how often you get to read a story about twins by twins, but I'm really interested to see their take on that twin perspective. I guess I'm assuming that the characters are actually twins. I mean, they're identical, come on. So even though it's YA, I think I'll still get something out of the story, even if it's like that kind of YA that I enjoy less. But maybe I'll get lucky and it'll be that kind of YA that I love. I just don't know. Also, it's inspired by Indian mythology, and I do find Indian mythology really interesting, but I haven't managed to find a book that incorporates it into the story that I've really loved. So maybe this could also be it. Then as well, I've got Raybearer by Jordan Ifueko. So this, I've kind of forgotten the synopsis at this point, but I know it's got some kind of twisty time element in it. Something about a woman who lives out of time adopting someone, a child. That was the worst synopsis I've probably ever given, but I don't want to look it up at this point because I don't want to spoil myself, because sometimes synopsises of twisty time books spoil things. So it's better that I've forgotten everything about it and I can go into it kind of not having too many expectations. But I have seen a lot of people really loving this. And then lastly as well, I've decided to continue reading some Junji Ito. So I've read a few things by Junji Ito. There's one just right down here, and I really like how creepy and awful and weird it is. So Junji Ito is a Japanese horror manga illustrator and author. His stuff is really dark and twisted, but everything I've read so far I've really enjoyed, so hopefully I will also like Tomi. This is another one where I could just guess at the synopsis. Something I used to know, but I purposely forgot. Let's say it was on purpose, shall we? So I think basically Tomi is a succubus and she's just going around seducing men and driving them to murder. Sounds like fun. The other part of this diversity goal that I had was that I'm trying to read at least one Maori author every 2 months. This will be August, which is the 8th month, so I should have read 4. And I think Into the Darkness by Lee Murray will actually be my 5th, so I'm doing okay at this goal, especially because I have actually been really enjoying all the ones that I've read. Then my 4th goal is that I wanted to diversify the genres I'm reading a bit more. I did say that I wanted to read less fantasy, but at this point I'm reading a lot less fantasy than I normally do, so I'm not really worrying about that bit. But what I really wanted to do was read more science fiction and more thrillers and horrors. So looking at it for this month, I seem like I'm actually doing okay. So I wanted to read more than 20% sci-fi and I've got 23% sci-fi. I think it's pretty much though actually just Vortex and Defect, but still over the percentage goal, and that's the main thing. And then I also wanted to read more thrillers and horrors, so I was saying more than 15%, and it's looking like I'm about 30% for this month. Partly I'm counting The Box in the Woods as like a thriller. It's like a YA mystery thriller. It falls into that category in the way I'm counting things, so close enough. As well, I've got the Junji Ito Into the Darkness I'm counting as like creature horror. I've got Someone Like Me, which is a thriller. And then my 5th goal was that I wanted my average rating to be higher than it has been before. So far I'm doing really well at this, so I don't think I'm worrying about this too much. But also, I think there's a lot of books on this TBR that I'm expecting to rate very highly, so hopefully I won't be wrong. Okay, so for this TBR, my physical stack is looking like this now. Not too bad, but possibly a little bit more than I've been getting to recently. I've got to remember this one's only half though, so maybe not too bad, and this one's just graphic. I do also have a few ebooks, so Tomi I'm going to read in ebook form, but that's graphic as well. Into the Darkness and Defect are really short, so those ebooks shouldn't be a problem. And then the rest is audiobooks, and I added it up and I think that it's totally doable. So I think we're going to be okay for this TBR. Do let me know if you have read any of these books that I'm planning to read and whether you think I'm gonna like them. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well. Good luck for your reading in August, and I will see you next time.